Holt Wood is an ancient woodland. It's 14 hectares, 32 acres, so it's quite small. It was heavily degraded by the previous owner, a timber company, who took out 300 oak trees. They didn't replant. They clear-felled one area. They heavily filled the rest. They used destructive machinery doing the work, used a bulldozer. They destroyed all the ditches, and it was overrun with rhododendron, about 40% rhododendron, and very little decent ground flora. And your starting point would suggest that there was no value in that woodland.
Just to give you some idea of the figures, Holt Wood, based in 14 hectares of woodland, we have a second woodland of 16 hectares, turned over the last 2 years 1.2 million a year. It's made a surplus in 9 years, which has gone straight to the bottom line of reserves, of 1.06 million. And we employ 30 people. Keith Kirby, one of the country's leading experts on woodland management, has been to the wood, and he summed it up as saying, yes, there is some development in an ancient woodland. Some of this ancient woodland is now footpath, it is car park, it is building. But what you cannot deny is the other 90+% is now in recovery rather than in decline. There is a net environmental benefit.
When we do the management, we run a training course on woodland management, maybe for the unemployed. We then extract the timber as a team building exercise using people rather than machinery. We bring it back to a sawmill. We train people in how to use a sawmill. We then have our own design team that design products from that timber. So we're not just selling it off the shelf as timber, but we're actually trying to maybe design a building that will use that particular type of tree or particular way it's grown. We're not only generating that income and creating public access and amenity and involving people, but we're also enhancing the woodland. I think there is generally, and it's been, I don't know, must be about 50 people who've been through those workshops, maybe more, an awareness that they do need to be operating in a more business-like way, that they need to generate income to be sustainable.
The research shows that if you end up with a really good green space, that the economic value of this area is going to increase.
We're not just managing woodlands, we're managing more than that. It's getting that funding in because of all the restrictions that you've got being a government body.
Are we kind of at the end of a phase almost, because we're just about to see a completely new economic objective for our woods? So, I'm perceiving not an old school kind of conservation risk, as it were, but a different form of partnership that's needed.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur and I don't take risks because I know it's going to work. And you could describe that as arrogance. You could say it's something missing in my brain and I just know it'll work. The route might be a bit unclear, but I'll get there and I know it will happen.
The basis of Holt Wood was ecoms, economic conservation. The E is economic, the C is community, or the social leg, N is natural, or the environmental leg, which gives the S at the end, which is the sustainability. And I think it's pretty well accepted that sustainability has those three legs. You need all elements. And in the middle is the O of opportunity.
You have got to get the business side sorted now, very quickly, to take advantage so the right people are doing that work, not the wrong ones, that the ethics are right, that it's being done for the right reasons in the right way and it's not being overdone. And the danger is that you tend to get board members who are all business people. You've got the corporate category, individuals tend to dominate with business people. And when I would report the annual accounts and say that the net profit had reduced from 10%, which is pretty spectacular, down to 8%, there'd be this sharp intake of breath. And all the business people would go, oh dear, do we need to reduce staff? Do we need to make cutbacks? We need to look at this. And you'd get there was one of the individual members who happened to be one of the local chaplains. He was the environmental chaplain for Lincolnshire. And he would say, did we need to make any more than 8%? Why did we make 8%? Why did we employ somebody else to nurture the kids more and only make 3%? And you need the balance in the discussion because very few people understand the three legs. They all come with an agenda. They all come as a conservationist who's only interested in the trees, or they come as a business person who's only interested in making money. And actually getting the balance in there so you get the debate and you get the arguments weighted the right way, I think is essential.
I'm not somebody who sees that the way to the future is to live in a yurt in a woodland, trying to make a living out of green woodworking, eating hazelnuts. You know, the idea of going back to the Stone Age is nonsense. We have to think of something that is fit for the 21st century. And I think our forests can be a key part of that. But it's about living with the forest, being part of it, not seeing as something that you cuddle and hug and admire from the outside. Get in there and be involved with it and be part of it and actually live with nature, not live alongside it.
And I just feel there is an opportunity perhaps for us to work with people who maybe at this stage don't think that the countryside or the woodland is a place for them to come up with creative business ideas, but actually we're missing that. And I think if you showed them what we've got, they could be really inspired. And I don't come across in my work that many people who look at the things we do and think you could have a business out of that, or how about if you did that, or how about if you did that.
I think the most important thing is hope. That they see that the end of the funding streams, the end of potential support from various government agencies doesn't mean the end of their project. Actually, there is a way forward. They can look at a business model that is profitable. Secondly, I would think it's about welcoming profit, seeing profit as a good thing when you spend the money in the right way. Profit for good. A business that is driven by passion, not just about making the money for the sake of making money, not to buy yourself a new plasma screen, but to actually achieve what you passionately believe in terms of managing ancient woodland properly, providing all these public benefits. And that for the really die-hard conservationists, they actually are less resistant to the idea of social enterprise in woodland and the idea that making money is terrible and that you must be doing damage. But they recognise that it can be appropriate and find ways to maybe allow their woodlands to be used or maybe find ways to work in a balanced way with similar community enterprises.
I'd just say for this conference, on the edge, that let's, through the discussions we have, not fight for a straight line edge, wherever you draw your line. Let's have a wavy edge. Let's actually allow some flexibility about how we manage our woods and how we treat them. Let local people decide what their ambition is for their woodland. Let's find different ways to make money from the wood. Let's have variety, because that, as mentioned by Jonathan, will be what survives in the future.
I would like to think that when we've achieved some of the key jobs, like getting rid of the rhododendron, like getting the coppice into management, we might get to a point where the business activity in Hill Holt Wood actually needs to decline. And at that point, as we are a social enterprise and we'll hopefully do the right thing, but we will also hopefully be requiring access to more woodlands. Maybe some of the activity will move to another woodland, another site, where there is a need for this intensive management. So that we can keep moving around within a reasonable area around us, getting these woodlands into really good heart.